Eskom has staged what's been called the miraculous turnaround in 2025. The Council for Scientific and Industrial Research says South Africa experienced a sharp reduction in load shedding during the first half of this year. It says the amount of electricity shed fell by 82% compared with the same period in 2024. Eskom has in recent times been facing a litany of challenges. For more on this, let's talk to CSIR Principal Researcher Sipho Mdhluli. It's good to have you. Thanks very much for joining us, Sipho.
Good morning to you, Liens. Good morning to your viewers as well.
So CSIR Power Generation has shown that Eskom staged this miraculous turnaround, but let's talk about the primary drivers behind these developments.
Yes, yeah, it's a massive reduction, 82%. Leanne, there are a number of factors that are behind this. There's three principal factors. Let me just take you through it. The first one is the improvement in the Eskom power plant performance. There's a parameter called the energy availability factor. The energy availability factor measures the theoretical maximum energy that can be generated by the Eskom fleet when available, when the power plants are not on planned maintenance or unplanned maintenances. The energy availability factor improved by 1% in the first half of this year to reach an average of 58% compared to the 57% that was reached in the first half of 2024. Some people might think that 1% is a small improvement, but I want to put it to your viewers that a 1% improvement on the energy availability factor is a massive achievement, because we're talking about a 1% over a system that has installed capacity of over 47,000 megawatts dispatchable generation resources. So this improvement basically means that we can add power the moment we improve the energy availability, because the alternative is to just procure new dispatchable generation resources, and that takes a long time, Leanne, more than 5 years. In the short-term horizon, the energy availability factor is the single biggest levers that we can actually work on to add dispatchable generation capacity. This is power that can produce electricity over a 24-hour period. The second lever here is new generation capacity that's been brought online. Eskom once again added 720 megawatts of dispatchable baseload power plant. So this is due to the commissioning of the Kusile Unit 6. So that unit came online and started producing power as early as June. From the RE-IPP program, there's been a number of additions. We've added 364 megawatt hours of wind generation resources, and we've also added 100 megawatts of CSP power plant. The last lever that actually contributed to this massive reduction is the growth that we continue to see in embedded solar PV installation. Embedded solar PV installation increased by approximately 1,400 megawatts in the first half of 2025 to bring it to a total of 6,800 megawatts of installed embedded solar PV in the first half of 2025 compared to the 5,400 megawatts. So all these three factors.
Certainly good news. It's a good news story to tell. Sorry for interrupting you, Sipho. I'm just watching the time. And I know it's not on our side. We unfortunately need to get out the program early these days. But in terms of diesel, I want to focus on the diesel issue, because that's the good news story to tell. But I want to look on the flip side here, because there's one or two issues that I suppose we need to question. Eskom's generation jumped from about 7% in the first half of 2024 to 12% in the same period. This is the use of diesel. And obviously, this is a worrying dependency. And we are seeing that this is, I suppose, some are reading it as an Eskom hidden diesel subsidy. What do you think about that?
No, the diesel generator is actually needed. I just want to correct you, Leanne. The diesel utilization, it didn't really double. Diesel utilization increased from 13% to reach 18% in the first half of 2024 compared to 2025. So diesel generation resources are needed in order to stabilize the grid. When you look at what actually happened in the first half of this year, the cubic unit was taken out for plant maintenances. So that basically means that in order to mitigate against load shedding, all generation resources that are available and are online need to come up and meet the load. That also includes the diesel generators. Just to basically, cover the energy that would have been produced by the cubic unit that went down on the 1st of March.
Yeah.
It's a viable generation resources that is needed to stabilize the grid as long as we utilize it in a manner that's NESA approved, and it actually doesn't, increase the price of electricity quite substantially. So this is prudent utilization because we're getting baseload power from Quebec, and so this was a needed dispatch of diesel utilization.
What about the fact that a lot of customers, whether we talk household, whether we talk companies that have actually moved off the grid, installed solar power, installed batteries, so that they don't have to be dependent on Eskom? Has this alleviated it? And at the same time, has this dropped in terms of the revenue that Eskom is collecting? Do we see this hampering them as well?
Yes, on-site embedded generation, it also contributes to reducing the strain on the grid. When people actually installed on-site embedded generations, what that basically means is that instead of consuming more power from the grid, some of that power would actually would actually be derived from the installation that you would typically get from your on-site solar rooftop PV. So that basically means that you end up consuming less from the grid. So this does actually contribute to reducing the power that's needed from the grid. So this is within that context when we say that the demand is actually trending lower, we're talking about the demand from the grid. This is the Eskom demand, right?
Yeah.
Because on-site embedded generations also contribute to meeting some of that load. So in terms of the tariff, it basically means that the tariff needs to be reviewed in order to make sure that everybody contributes equally in order to cover the fixed infrastructure costs.
All right, Sipho, I've got to wrap the interview. Can't believe it. We've got to take another break, unfortunately, but I didn't even get to talk to you about the tariffs because that's a big problem as well, is the above inflation. We've seen this going on for a number of years, and it's expected to happen again. The affordability of electricity is a big question right now.
Yes, it is. I mean, the demand for electricity is not price inelastic, so you can get to a point where the price of electricity actually starts to trigger competitions from alternative sources of generation resources, such as your solar PV and your battery. Again, the tariff is a bit complex, so some of the customers might have reached that point where it's economically viable to actually go for alternatives, and others it's not so much, because the tariff is quite complex. It's differentiated according to the different customer types, So the residential, the industrials, the manufacturers, we are all on a different tariff. There's not a single tariff to rule them all. But yes, to answer your question, the price of electricity is not the demand for electricity is not price inelastic. Right. There is a price where it actually starts to trigger a healthy competition with other alternative sources of generation resources.
Okay, Sipho, we've got to leave it there. Sipho Mdhluli, CSIR Principal Researcher, speaking about Eskom's turnaround.